Hello and welcome back to the Paragon semi-finals. There's Tim showing us the swamp. I'm Laura and Kanishka. We've got Tim Evers on Grixis control playing Dillon Kikkawa on white-red vehicles.
Okay, cool. So, interesting matchup this time. Tim is bringing a deck that is controlled, and it looks like he's aware of the meta game, and he's got a lot of tools that can manage a lot of the matchups that we're going to be seeing.
Yep. I believe they're both keeping the 7 hands,
okay.
And Tim's on the play.
Okay, and Dillon leading with the Toolcraft Exemplar.
Yep. It's a pretty shiny card.
So it looks like, so Tim didn't have the burn spell to take care of that Exemplar right now, but he did manage to just negate the Copter, which is a pretty good outcome there. Yeah, and that Toolcraft Exemplar would have become a 3/2 at that point. So
So no artifact for Dillon.
Yep, to get that extra damage in.
Yeah.
Which is pretty valuable for Dillon. But Tim did kind of do some of that work for him. Not in the way that Dillon would like it to happen, by losing 3 life to draw 3 cards with Painful Truth.
Yeah.
But he does get the Copter down the following turn. Ooh. Okay. Kalitas.
Yeah, it's pretty nice for Tim.
Yeah, this could be a problem for Dillon. I think he's only got a couple of ways to answer a card like this in his main deck. Declaration Stone being one of the main ones. The other things would require him to maybe have a bit of extra energy left for extra Harness Lightning. Not really much else, unfortunately, and this could be a real problem for Dillon.
Yeah. Doesn't really have any lightning axes.
Yep.
Which you see in the black-red madness decks. Yep. Any madness decks, really.
Yeah, like this is not a deck that can really afford to be discarding cards.
Yeah, so unlike a lot of the decks we've seen today, it doesn't really take advantage of its graveyard.
Exactly.
Doesn't really use it.
Yep.
Just wants to stick those artifacts and get in there for damage.
Yeah, so luckily for Dillon, he does have a card that can fly right over the top of Kalitas, so that will work well for him. And while Tim is tapped out, Dillon's going to make sure he gets that 3 damage through. Yeah,
with the Smuggler's Copter, or... I'm not going to say what its nickname is, because that's just a silly nickname. Really.
I like just calling it Smuggler's Copter,
Yeah.
It is such a powerful card, format defining.
The 3/3 for 2, you just need to crew with 1 flying. Whenever it attacks all blocks. Attacks and blocks.
Yep.
You get to loot a card.
All the things.
Draw a card, discard a card. It's like the R&D team were like, this isn't as strong as it could be. It doesn't seem to be good, and there's 3 options, and they've just gone with all the options.
Yeah, and Kalitas already showing its way. Like Kalitas, together with cheap removal spells, is just backbreaking. He's just managed to take care of that Selfless Spirit, which it's such a powerful card, becomes so much less interesting when there's a Kalitas on the board. So Dillon is free to just make a block here. His creatures are indestructible, so unfortunately Tim gains 3 life, unfortunately from Dillon's point of view. Fortunately for Tim, he gets to gain some life. It looks like Tim may have forgotten that the Selfless Spirit just gave everything indestructible, because he's kind of left the board open. So that Toolcraft Exemplar, I believe, if you have 2 artifacts, gets first strike as well. It might be 3.
Think so.
So that Toolcraft Exemplar, it needs 3. So if Dillon can find another artifact here, he actually gets a free attack with that Toolcraft Exemplar now. Tim is just sitting there with a handful of cards though. So, and I think he's got Unlicensed Disintegration up at the front there. So I have a feeling he's planning to cast that spell.
Yeah, Unlicensed Disintegration is pretty nice if you've got some artifacts.
Yeah, but I mean, even if not, which I think Tim most of the time will not have those, it's just a very efficient removal spell. We don't really get unconditional removal like this that much anymore.
No, not really.
Yeah, so this is
a nice 3 damage.
Yeah, which is tacked on, which you don't even need. Like you can have it; it makes things a lot better.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I don't think Dillon really has many options here. He kind of just has to play into removal spells.
Yep. Yeah, because he really wants to be able to sculpt his hand with that Copter.
Yep. And it's just the best attacks he's got. Unfortunately, he didn't have the first strike, so he'd be unable to he'd be basically trading his Toolcraft Exemplar for a zombie token.
Yeah, which is it's not really that good.
Not at all, yeah. Yeah, Kalitas. Basically, it turns all your removal spells into 2-for-1s. You remove a creature from your opponent's board and you get a 2/2 zombie. Okay, PNLR. Powerful card. One of the... Oh, interestingly, he could have cast that to give it first strike, so... yeah. This is one of the cards that can get you through a Kalitas.
Yeah, by making the extra artifact.
Yep, and just stacking some artifacts, making creatures unblockable, and just flying through for...
Yeah, but he decided to do it post-combat.
Yep. I think he's just playing conservatively.
To get at that removal spell out. Maybe because PNLR is pretty handy.
Yeah.
It's better, in some certain situations, it's better to have a PNLR than a Smuggler's Copter.
Yep. Unfortunately, Tim had a Kalitas. But he's just going to keep making more of these zombies. Look, it's not looking great for Dillon.
Here we see Obnixilis come down for Tim.
Yep.
And
it's a pretty terrifying character in the story, and no less terrifying on the battlefield in an actual game of Magic.
Though not in the Gatewatch.
That's true.
Yes.
He's
a
bit of a nemesis actually. He tried to kill a bunch of the planes. Actually, he wanted to kill all of the Gatewatch. Yeah. And using the -3 there to destroy a target a creature. So already powerful.
Right?
Yep. He killed PNLR. Yeah. Yep. Already powerful planeswalker, but again, any sort of removal coupled with Kalitas is just even better. So
sweet. Just assemble the zombie army.
Yep.
That would be nice if it was a demon army to go with Obnixilis. But,
I think I could see him teaming up with a character like Kalitas.
Yeah. They're both pretty dark and mysterious and horrible to the Gatewatch and other sort of good guys. If you believe in good guys and bad guys when it comes to Magic, I'm sure Obnixilis and Kalitas could be some people's heroes.
I'd call them
Tims?
They're pretty. I'm pretty sure Obnixilis as a character, his goal is just to cause as much destruction as possible. I think he's not motivated by much else. So. Yeah.
So the little Thopter flying in at Obnixilis. Dillon?
Yep. So one of the cool things about this vehicle deck, I think that kind of surprised a lot of people, and definitely myself, was how much it's able to kind of grind a bit. Look, he's very far behind at the moment, but being able to do things like play 3/2 that scries to just helps you just really set your draws up. So even in the late game, you can have some level of control over what you're going to draw.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fantastic, really.
Yeah,
for a deck like this.
and upside to Veteran Motorist is if he still had that Smuggler's Copter on the field, and he crewed Copter with the Veteran Motorist.
Yep.
Unless Disintegration would not be able to destroy the Smuggler's Copter because it's already 4/4 before it becomes a creature.
The Disintegration?
Yep.
Disintegration destroys.
Yes, but just 3 damage. Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
it doesn't
okay.
actually deal damage, yeah. But you can, but combining it with cards like Dipala, which I think Dillon has found, so he's actually found a Dipala, it can actually make it a 5 toughness artifact, which a vehicle, which can actually get around Grasp of Darkness. So there are things that do things like along those lines. Yeah.
So when I said an unlicensed Disintegration, what I actually meant was a 3 dealing damage spell.
Right. Okay, like Fiery Temper, etc.
Yes, Fiery Temper.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm confusing myself.
Yeah.
But yes, we've seen a Selfless Spirit come down for Dillon, and once again the Thopters swung at Obnixilis. It's now Tim's turn, and he's played Magic cards and done things.
Yeah, and he's just cast a Glimmer. I think he's just found Harness Lightning that's going to take care of that again. This zombie horde is just getting a bit too bit too big. Yeah. Yeah. So Tim's kind of got his own create your own Liliana emblem going on here. Yeah. So I think one of the paths to victory for Dillon is going to involve drawing multiple Declaration in stones.
Yeah. He's got 3.
There's only 3 in the deck, and Avacyn is sort of an out. I guess an Avacyn flipping could clear the zombies away.
Yep.
So he's got. There's a few ways he can manage this, but I think perhaps for Dillon, it's looking a little bit inevitable. I think for him it might be just getting a bit more information about the sorts of cards that Tim is playing, so he has a bit more information for the next game. Yep. Because the Grixis decks haven't really been around for too long. so it would be valuable. It's not like a deck you encounter too often.
No.
So I think for Dillon, it's actually quite informative for him to let this game play out.
Yep. We throw Transgress the Mind.
Which caught the Fleetwheel Cruiser.
Yep.
Yeah, and these are more Planeswalkers.
Yep.
Okay, and this is just going to be more value for Tim. He's just getting further and further ahead.
Yep. Digging through his library.
His creatures are outclassing Dillon's, and his hand is also outclassing Dillon's at this point.
What, he's got five cards in his hand, and Dillon's, I think, got one?
I think it's just the one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just, he's sort of firing on all cylinders with this deck right now. Yeah. And I think
showing what it's meant to do.
Yeah, and I think all of that's just that Kalitas just kind of has dictated how this game has played out.
Yeah, if Dillon was able to remove the Kalitas, he would have been in much better shape, because none of those zombies would be there, and the Nixless probably would be dead.
Yep. But
Dillon is scooping. He's had enough.
He's seen it. He sees the writing on the wall. He knows what's up. So going to sideboards, I think these players have got some interesting options. So Tim has got a card that came out in the same set as the Copter, and conveniently is a pretty good answer to that Copter in Ceremonious Rejection. It's, I think, it's a reasonable option to bring in, but he might actually be more interested in having something like the Weaver of Lightning. He actually has a lot of answers to that Copter. He's got the Grasp of Darkness, Harness Lightning. So he's got a lot of ways to answer that already, even unlicensed Disintegration can take care of it. But the Weaver of Lightning, I think, is just going to be a very powerful card for him here. We noticed a lot of Dillon's creatures have 1 toughness. So the Veteran Murderist has 1 toughness, Toolcraft Exemplar has 1 toughness, Selfless Spirit even has 1 toughness. So Weaver of Lightning just kind of can end up being an extra. Yeah, it can turn all your removal spells into 2-for-1s again. In control decks, they're all about card advantage.
Yep.
It's all about getting more out of your cards than your opponent is.
Yes,
Weaver of Lightning is going to help him do that.
Yeah, he's going to be casting a bunch of spells, so
maybe
it's just going to go off.
Yeah, this sort of a card is made for these sorts of decks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also having 4 toughness, very relevant. It means he's going to be able to manage a lot of the early aggression on the ground. I don't think there's too much else that he might consider. Something like Chandra could just be a way to clear the board up and then present a win con.
Because as you were saying, a bunch of Dillon's creatures have 1 toughness.
One or 2. The Pala has 3. So
Chandra -1, -2, -3.
Yep.
Clear the board.
Yeah, and still be alive. So it doesn't have to -4. So you can sort of just wipe up the board and start presenting a threat following that. So that's another option for him. But I think it looks like in a lot of ways Tim has got a deck that's kind of tuned for one of these matchups anyway. So I think it's looking pretty good for him.
Yep. Dillon.
And Dillon. So Dillon's options are a little slightly not present. I think, so one of the cards he wants to bring in are cards that can manage what's going, to sort of match the card advantage that Tim has. So I think something like Gideon would be a very, very good option here. If he can resolve the Gideon ally of Zendikar, he's presented a way to continue to put creatures on the board in a way that really puts stress on Tim's hand.
Yep.
So a lot of Tim's removal is 1-for-1, so having these 2/2 creatures means that it might be a bit harder for Dillon to get 2-for-1s out of his removal.
Yeah.
And not only that, he's also Gideon hits for 5 every turn, which is huge. So being able to do that will be very good for Dillon. So that's definitely one of the things he'll be looking at bringing in here.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how much he knows about the deck, he might consider something like Stasis Snare as well. There are there aren't too many creatures. It's just Kalitas is a big problem. So he might need some sort of way to respond to Kalitas before it goes off again. So I wouldn't be surprised if he brings Stasis Snare in.
Yeah. It pretty much won Tim the game 1.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, zombie horde.
Yeah,
if you can
absolutely.
Nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Yeah. So Dillon just has to be careful not to bring in too many answers and just focus on having threats that are answers as well. So something like Gideon, I think, is his first choice here. He might even consider Chandra just as a way to kind of outgrind your opponent. Chandra's one of her +1 abilities is revealing a card from the top of your library.
Yep.
And then having the option to to cast that spell. And if not, you get to just shock your opponent, deal 2 damage to target opponent, which can also work in Dillon's favor in that he could start redirecting that damage to some of Tim's planeswalkers.
Yep.
And that could manage that as well. But yeah, so I think it's risky for Dillon to deviate too much from his game plan because it's clear that Tim's deck is just Tim's deck is gonna win the late game. So Dillon can't afford to let the game go too long.
Yeah, he needs to get those vehicles out, crew the copter.
Pretty much.
Loot away some bad cards.
Yep, and just get Tim's life total way too, very low very quickly. Force him to have to use these cards in less than ideal ways. All right, so
yep, looks like
we're good to go.
Dillon's on the play.
Okay.
And they've
both kept 7.
No, I think Dillon's mulliganed down. I think
to
Tim's
6. Okay. Yep.
Kept. Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like Tim's kept 7.
Tim's kept 7. Dillon's mulliganed to 6.
Okay, and here we go. So, yeah, one of these
turn 1 play of the Thraben
Inspector. Yeah.
Inspector.
And that is one of those 2-for-1 cards. So he gets to put a body out, and at the same time, he's going to be able to replace that card at some point. So
yep.
That's a great start for Dillon.
Yeah, and we see the copter coming down turn 2. That's
getting under the counter magic.
On the curb.
Yep. So good start for Dillon so far. I think this will be... Sorry.
Tim's going to have to find some removal.
Yep. Yeah, I think... so I imagine Tim has kept a hand with some removal. So it's going to be about how well that removal matches up with what Dillon's presenting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like... I think that's Ceremony's Rejection. Yeah, so Tim has brought that in. So unfortunately, he's Dillon's managed to get the copter in underneath the rejection there. So there's a chance that card ends up sitting in his hand for a little while if he doesn't find another color spell, specifically another vehicle to play there. So yeah, very powerful spell. Being able to counter anything for 1 mana tends to be a very powerful effect.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And Dillon playing a bunch of vehicles which are colorless. It's pretty handy, but not having the turn 1 blue spell, land rather untapped. Yep. It's a bit of a downside.
Yeah, it has been a bit of a cost here. Yeah. So I think Tim just prioritizing fixing his mana there. Sure he can get his black mana there. Which is reasonable. Cool. Like again, he can make up. He can take some damage early on. He can make the advantage up later in the game.
Yeah, he can easily stabilize with Kalitas.
Yeah. So interesting interaction here. Tim does have Harness Lightning in hand. Yep. And can you tell us about the interaction between Veteran Motorist and the Smuggler's Copter?
Yeah. So Veteran Motorist crews the copter. The trigger to make it a 1/1 will resolve before it becomes a creature.
Right.
So because it says give +1/+1 to a vehicle, it will happen
instantaneously.
Before. Yep. So it never gets a chance to
be a 3/3.
Be a 3/3 creature.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah.
Ooh, so it looks like Tim has taken 5 damage there.
Yep.
And used his Harness Lightning to kill the Motorist again.
Yep. And so he's got 2 energy in his bucket to use for
future copters.
Future Harness Lightnings to take down the copter. And it seems like Dillon decided not to loot on his copter, which is possible.
He may have missed the trigger.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Okay. So Tim he's got a handful of cards. I think he's holding on to a Void. I see a Void Shadow. Ceremony's Rejection.
There are magical cards in his hand.
Okay, so yeah, looks like Dillon just played a land and passed turn. Okay. Oh, got another attack in. So Tim's just a bit strapped on removal.
Yeah.
He's full of... So this is one of the weaknesses of counter magic is that once the threats are on the board, they don't actually help you all that much.
Nope.
Yeah. So...
Unless it's like summary dismissal and you...
Right, you can counter an ability.
Yeah, but...
Potentially, yeah. But
it's not really much to counter...
Yeah, and I think Dillon's worked out that Tim doesn't have removal in hand, so he's just going to make sure he gets these attacks in while he can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before Tim has a chance to stabilize.
Yeah. So, yeah, it looks like Tim's just kind of Unfortunately, drawing the wrong half of his deck right now.
Yep. Which is what you get for playing control.
Yeah, so down to 8. I mean, he's got a Kalitas in hand, so all he needs to do is land this. I'm wondering if what sort of cards Dillon's got in his hand here.
Not really sure.
Yeah, we'll see. So, I mean, I think Tim may be forced to just cast this Kalitas on this turn because he's so far behind, and if he can land the Kalitas and Dillon has no answer to it, that should more or less help him stabilize.
Yep.
So yeah, there it is.
Okay,
Dillon choosing not to cast Everson.
Well, he had 4 lands.
Oh, he didn't have the 5, right?
No,
okay.
because the Needle Spires was
came
tapped.
tapped, right? I think he might have the Declaration.
Looks like it.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty big.
But yes, and Tim tapped out to play his Kalitas.
Yep.
So
Which
so
he had to put the guard down there.
Yeah, definitely.
And wow, and follows up with a Gideon there. Yeah. So these ceremonious rejections not quite doing the job here.
No, unfortunately not.
And he gets to crew with the knight and get in for an extra point of damage there. So Tim down to 8, and Dillon does have
4.
Sorry, 4. Yeah.
Started on 8.
Sorry. Yep. Down to 4, and Dillon does have that Avacyn in hand. So it depends what Tim has here. So if Dillon is able to resolve that Avacyn, it could just be game over for Tim.
Yeah. We could see game 3.
Yep.
Should be nice.
Which should be sweet. I mean, I'm always down for seeing all magic. So
yes.
Dillon basically just gets to attack for free here.
Yeah.
And he can even...
looks like there's a Torrential Gear Hulk.
There is, yeah.
Hand.
But I mean, Dillon still gets to turn on... to turn Gideon on.
Yep.
So it's not over.
No.
But Tim doesn't have too many options here. Like his best play here is probably just casting that Torrential Gear Hulk, flashing back the Harness Lightning.
Yeah.
On the Copter.
Taking out the Copter, yep.
Mm-hmm. Which means he still takes 3 damage. Oh, sorry, he'll take...
well, he'll probably block.
He'll block the Gideon and then
the
have to
Gear
take...
Hulk and take...
And take 2 damage. From
2 off the Knight.
Yep. But it depends what... Okay, Dillon discarding a Selfless Spirit. And there it is, the big Gear Hulk.
Yep.
Snapcaster Hulk.
Yep.
And okay.
We have the Avacyn now. Yep.
And that's it. Wow. There you go. So Dillon played that really well. I think he recognized, like, people might be tempted to protect their Copters in certain situations because their opponent's passing with all this mana up and they've got all these spells they could be casting, but Dillon just having the reads there, recognizing that Tim would not refuse to kill the Copter if he had the card, and just saying, okay, pressing the advantage, saying just making Tim have to have that removal spell, and he didn't, and so Dillon was able to just close the game out. Yep. Yeah, so well played by Dillon. Yeah,
that Archangel Avacyn.
Yep, indestructible. Did the job there, yeah. So
Very
I guess what happened, to clarify what happened there, the Avacyn did enter the battlefield, protecting his threat from being
the Harness Lightning.
Yeah, from Harness Lightning damage, which at the same time protected his threat, ate a card and presented another 4/4. So there was just way too much power on the board for Tim to be able to manage. Tim playing in colours that don't get access to sweepers, so I think that's what's going on there.
Well, except for the Flamecaller, right?
Yeah, that might be one of his only ways to wipe the board. Yeah. Even then, again, we could see Avacyn can just blow that out as well. Tim, most of the time, will be tapping out to cast something like Chandra. So if Avacyn does come down, she can still protect all the creatures. So, I guess the thing here, Dillon went a bit longer that time. I guess it wasn't a super aggressive start, but he's brought these Gideons in. They can play the long game and deal lots of damage very quickly. So, so I don't know. I think Tim might consider taking out the ceremonious rejections. It looks like the players are looking back at the sideboards, deciding what they might want to do.
I think there's a hand for.
Oh, is that right? They've already drawn. Right. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So it looks like players didn't sideboard. They're happy with the hands they've got. Okay, and both players have kept. It looks like.
Yeah. So 7 is quite nice, and it looks like Tim's off turn 1 with the blue-red source of mana, so he could be able to.
Is he going to have to follow up with a tap land? He does.
But if he has the ceremonious rejection, he can say no to Copter.
That's true. That's true.
And Dillon followed game 2 plan of having the 3-win Inspector.
Yep. Just gets in
Gets
for
into red. Red
3 point
zone?
damage. Yep.
I'm so tired.
Sometimes
My words are not working.
into the red. Yeah, the red zone. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Thriving Inspectors. They have power.
Into the red. That's a Living End song, right? Into
that
the
right?
red? Anyway, music. Who knows music, right? We're here for magic, not music. Who cares about music? Everyone. Lol.
Okay.
We see another 3-minute inspector.
Okay, cool.
And a tap land and needle spires.
Yeah, unsure if Dillon had a choice to play an untap land there. I think he might have only... I think he has another Inspired Vantage. Maybe...
It's possible that he read that
There's
Tim might have the Ceremonious
Rejection,
Rejection, so
yeah.
decided for the white spell.
Yeah.
Or he might not have a copter in his hand.
Yeah.
Who could ever... No, I'm not going to say that. Lol.
Okay, and Tim getting in.
Ignore me. Have a...
Oh, so yeah, like this is the downside of again these narrow spells. Like we had Natural State earlier in the series, one of the earlier rounds, being a really good answer to enchantments in particular. So even though you could have cheap spells that can very efficiently answer certain problems, if that's what you're counting on, your opponent decides they're not going to do that. You're just kind of left with the card in hand. So Dillon casting a very powerful spell here. Deepala, Pilot Exemplar, who is a dwarf lord, as we call them.
Yep, and a vehicle lord too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's buffing +1/+1 dwarves and vehicles on your creature, and
yeah, and just getting to has sort of been able to build her board. Dillon's built the board out quite well, getting under a lot of control magic, and just he's presenting 5 power on the board, so that's pretty good.
And when Deepala attacks, he can pay X and
tap some
look
lands.
for some
and just find cards.
And vehicles.
Yep. This is another one of those cards that like the what's it called, the Veteran Motorist.
Yep.
And Tim just recognizing that
the power in that. Yeah.
It's card advantage.
Saying no.
Yep. But Dillon's still being able to get in there for 2.
It'll be the 3-minute instructors are doing quite well.
Yep.
Getting there for a little bit of damage.
Cool, and there you go. Now the game's gone on long enough that Dillon can start
cracking his clues. We have another Toolcraft Exemplar.
Yeah, and there is an artifact on the board. Those clues are artifacts.
Yep.
So it looks like Tim's sitting on a bunch of blue spells, and I imagine they're all counter spells. And I did spy a Skywhaler shot in Dillon's hand. So that Skywhaler shot is now going to be able to take out this Kalitas and allow Dillon to attack unless Tim has another removal spell in hand. I think Dillon is going to get... Oh, he's going to use Declaration Stone instead.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. It's Sorcery Speed. I think while he has a chance to cast a Sorcery Speed spell,
yeah, he may
he's
as well.
He's going to do that,
Yeah, and like, it's fine to give Tim a clue because he's not really doing much with his mana anyway.
Yeah, and if, I think Dillon's hoping to close the game out before that clue matters.
Yeah.
And being able to hit for 5 there, not a bad outcome either. So I think Dillon wants to get as much damage in before Tim gets to 6 mana and can start casting Keyhawks.
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably not going to crack that clue to continue to give.
He's going to keep his
Exemplar a bonus.
Okay, and unless
it's Disintegration.
and he gets the value off the clue now.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
there is a
downside.
Oh wow. And what's the wording on Disintegration? Will that 3 damage still happen, or does it depend on the target being destroyed?
It has targeted it, so it should still deal damage.
And it looks like that's been pointed out by a judge. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So unless Disintegration destroy target. Oops, sorry.
That's right.
I clicked it, didn't I?
Yeah.
If you control an artifact, it will deal 3 damage to that creature's controller. So
yeah, and look, it looks like Tim went for Chandra, so he's gone and just used Chandra to just completely wipe the board.
Oh wow.
Wow. So he's been able to take Avacyn off the board as well. So this is actually pretty bad for Dillon. Although he does have Needle Spires on the board, he's choosing not to attack with Needle Spires. Interesting. Okay. Oh wow. Oh wow. He must have had Fleetwood Cruiser in his hand, and he was just digging for that last land.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Golly gosh.
That is incredible. Wow. What a way to win the game.
Man.
So Fleetwood Cruiser,
it's a pretty sweet card.
Yeah, it's a vehicle that vehicles itself, that cruises itself, sort of thing. So yeah, enters the battlefield, it becomes crude. becomes an artifact creature, so it gets to attack for 5 as a 5/3 trample with haste. Wow, that was really well played by Dillon. Again, just recognizing what having a read on what Tim had in hand. He had Copters in hand, I think, for quite a while there, and chose not to cast them. Just deciding to play around that counter magic negates and ceremonious rejection. So, wow, Dillon is a good player, and he's shown us.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice showing of the red-white vehicles, or white-red vehicles. You know, Boris
vehicles. How that deck sort of just plays out. So, very nice. So excellent work from Dillon. It looks like.
Looks like we might be up for the finals.
The finals will be really soon. So we might go to a break for about 5 minutes.
And then we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Awesome.
And hang tight. Thanks for watching.
Cool.
We'll be with you shortly.
Awesome.
Yes.